Another weekend of college football is upon us. We've got lines moving, sell high spots, buy low spots, crazy stats, and a free play all here on the Power 5 on WagerTalk TV. I am, of course, Bryan Power, and stay tuned for how you can get a full weekend worth of winners for only $55. But as always, we start by looking at the WagerTalk.com odds screen to see how the market is moving. And one line that moved early in the week was Georgia Tech at Wake Forest. The road underdog is down to +4 after opening +7. I'll have more on that game in just a minute. Virginia Tech, another road dog, down to +5 after opening +7 at Marshall. South Carolina out to -6 at home versus Mississippi State. North Carolina -7.5 now at Pitt. That's another game I'll have more on in a moment. One of the big ones on Saturday sees Oregon now laying 3 touchdowns after opening -17 versus Colorado. Texas A&M has taken money. They're now -8.5 versus Auburn in a revenge spot for the Aggies. And Sam Houston State, who I talked about earlier this week on WagerTalk TV, down to +12 at Houston after opening +14. There's a line move that you find interesting. I know there's a lot of big games, top 25 matchups that weren't covered there. Drop it in the comments section. I'll be sure to talk about it, get back to you. We'll keep it interactive as we always do here on the Power 5 on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. But now we move to sell high. And I think LSU is in a tricky spot this week, laying 3 scores at home against Arkansas. Yes, the Tigers just went on the road and destroyed Mississippi State last week. But this SEC West rivalry with Arkansas has been defined by close games, at least recently. The last 3 meetings have all been decided by a field goal, and in fact, the road team has won all 3. Now, I'm not saying Sam Pittman and the Hogs are going to come into Baton Rouge and win outright Saturday night, but I do like Arkansas to cover here. The Razorbacks, they're off a misleading 38-31 loss to BYU where they had a 428-281 edge in total yards and a double-digit lead in both halves. Quarterback KJ Jefferson did not play in last year's 13-10 loss to LSU. His ability to run, I think, is going to cause some problems for this LSU defense. Think back to the opener versus Florida State. Pittman, 6-1-1 against the number on the road, playing with revenge. And Mark Lawrence's playbook lets us know that LSU has not covered in any of its last 9 conference home openers when favored by 13 or more points. For the record, Tigers currently -17.5 in this 7 p.m. Eastern kickoff. For buy low, I'm looking at Pitt. Sometimes you draw a line in the sand and you say, I don't think this team is as bad as it's looked the last 2 weeks. That's how I feel about the Panthers heading into Saturday's game versus North Carolina. They're getting 7.5 points at home, as I mentioned earlier. Phil Jurkovich, the transfer from BC, I have been stunned how poorly he's played for Pitt so far. He's been reunited with his former offensive coordinator from Boston College, but completing less than 50% of his passes. Now, Drake May is the North Carolina quarterback, so we know North Carolina has an edge at that position. But did you know that Drake May, through 3 games, has 4 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions? Would not expect that ratio from him at this point in the season. Remember, he lost his offensive coordinator from last year, Phil Longo, to Wisconsin. North Carolina, I know they were 6-0 straight up in true road games last year. It was the first time they did that in school history. However, all 6 wins were by 1 score, even one against lowly Virginia. I know there's going to be bigger games on Saturday for you to pay attention to, but hold your nose here. Take Pat Narduzzi and Pitt plus the points. Narduzzi can absolutely ill afford to be blown out at home in prime time. Stat of the day. Last 18 times we've had a top 25 matchup of 2 conference foes, and the spread has been 21 points or larger. The favorite is 14-4 ATS. That trend applies to a game I'm sure a lot of you are going to be watching this week, Colorado at Oregon, and it obviously supports the Ducks covering the spread. They are currently -21 in Eugene against Coach Prime and company. Of course, I'd like to thank you all for watching the Power 5. If you like what you've seen so far, please go ahead and smash that like button. I've also got a special offer for you here today. Get 3 full days worth of my selections for just $55 by using the coupon code POWER3 at checkout. That's POWER, all caps, followed by the number 3. Head on over to my page, wt.buzz/BP, for all the details. Once again, as I've said earlier this week on the Power 5, it's an 8-1 run in the NFL, and last weekend saw me cash a 5% max bet in college with Florida beating Tennessee outright. I've already got 2 CFB best bets posted for Friday, and I'm going to have another 5% play for Saturday. So be sure to take advantage of that special offer. Once again, use coupon code POWER3 at checkout to get 3 days of my selections for only $55. All right. Time for the power play of the day, or I suppose week, you could say. At the top of the show, I mentioned a line move in Georgia Tech's direction as the Yellow Jackets are now down to +4 against Wake Forest on Saturday. This is a 6:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. I'm taking the points here. I'm going to follow the line move. It's not the best of the number, but I think Georgia Tech's been much improved under Brent Key. They led Louisville most of the way in the season opener, and were within 7 of Ole Miss on the road last week in the fourth quarter before all hell broke loose. I don't even want to get into that game. It was a tough loss for me and my clients, taking the Yellow Jackets plus the points. I thought, though, it was a game effort, certainly a game where they should have covered. And you look at Wake Forest, though, the team Georgia Tech's playing this week, to me, a program a little bit on the decline. At least the descent. They needed a big come-from-behind effort last week, did the Demon Deacons, just to get by Old Dominion. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see an outright win by the underdog in this spot. Take the points with Georgia Tech in this ACC matchup. And that's going to do it for the Power 5 for Week 4 of college football. Check me out on Twitter at Bryan Power _wins. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the WagerTalk YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our great sports betting content each and every single day. Have a great weekend, everybody. Now let's all go cash some tickets.